Thank you for watching I'm Just Saying. I'm Kathleen Williams, your host, and I'm so delighted to be here today with the master in motivational speaking. This gentleman has been speaking now for
40 years.
40 years.
Yes.
And he is the man that the current day motivational speakers are all saying they learned from him. Well, Mr. Les Brown is out there. He's still speaking, and he has blessed us today with an opportunity to talk real talk straight to you. And we're going right in. I'm just saying. Thanks for watching. Mr. Brown,
yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about the possibilities.
I'm excited about the possibilities, too. So tell us, first of all, what are you doing right now?
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, too.
I'm speaking but more importantly, training and developing other speakers. I think that we've created a legion of problem staters, and what I want to do is help people to learn how to become problem solvers and cast a vision of who we can be in the future. Because as we begin to look at where we are right now, people need hope. And they need methods that will allow them to recreate their reality. And so we have to duplicate ourselves. And at this stage of my life, I'm transitioning out of what I've been doing full-time speaking to developing other speakers and giving them exposure so that they can build an audience.
That's phenomenal. And I'd like to talk to you quite a bit about that, because there may be many people watching today that are interested in doing that. Because there's so many people that want to be public speakers, and they say, you know, oh my gosh, I'm too scared, but I have a story to tell, you know. And
that's key what you just said, because a lot of people would like to make a difference in our community, but you know what first thing people say? You ought to be a minister. Because prior to my coming along, that was the only way that you stood up to help people, is that's going into the church business. And it's a business, okay?
It is a business.
As well as it does a lot of social good as well. So what I want to do is teach people how to tell their story strategically, so they can change how people think, change how they feel, which will change their choices. Because once you do that, now we can begin to see the impact of that kind of communication begin to show up in every area of our lives.
So what you're doing now with working with these speakers and helping them tell their story is also takes on another dimension, because you're actually helping them to create a business for themselves, and you're also helping them to make decisions and choices for themselves that takes them out of this whole frame of mind, well, if I'm going to speak, I got to be a minister.
Absolutely. The other thing that it does is helping us to create an achievement-driven culture. We now have...
What do you mean by that?
We have an entertainment-driven culture. I had a bishop say to me, when I asked him, I said, you and I have been talking for like over an hour and a half, and you haven't gone into a hoop. He said, man, church is cheap entertainment.
Bishop
have over 300 churches under him. Okay, so when you look at the Urban League, the NAACP, when they have their conventions, they have more people who attend their concerts than they do the panels. When you look at Essence Magazine, it's a festival of music. It's a music festival. So we have a culture that's driven for entertainment, a thirst for it, an insatiable thirst. Basketball, football, rap music. Yes, most young black kids, polls were done. Over 90% want to be rappers. Over 90% have their own little studios. And they spend more time in studios and playing video games than they do in developing their minds. When I'm speaking for major corporations, and I speak for entrepreneurs, I see young Asian kids who are there learning business techniques and strategies. Kids from India, kids from Japan, Latinos who have a different kind of mindset than your average African American kid. So in our culture, entertainment is king. But when you begin to look at what does it take to make it in this knowledge-driven world, you've got to not only have the ability to entertain, but you've got to be able to negotiate with your mind. You've got to be able to express yourself. You've got to dress the part so you can fit in, and you've got to be able to have relationships beyond your community from people who look like you.
Okay, now you just said a whole lot of stuff, and we're going to break this thing down.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, you made mention of race and nationality in the differences.
Yes.
So let's take this back. You said something about Asian kids and the difference between Asian young adults, between Asians and African Americans. Let's get into that a little bit.
They do well academically, not because they're smarter than our kids, but because they're disciplined and they're focused. They come here to win. They come here to achieve. They come here to make impact. They come here because they have a compelling reason under their belt that losing is not an option. Where when you look at the average African American kid, you look at young boys today in our community, the underground has become the mainstream. The earrings, the saggy pants, the hats on backwards, or the crooked hairstyle. They're more concerned about being fashionable than dressing to make impact, to dressing to indicate that they have a future. They're copycats. See, all of us are born unique, but most of us die copies. So what has happened is the jail culture, the tattoos, the rough, gruff look, that jail culture has now become the norm. Anytime young men who look forward to going to jail, because that gives them what they call street cred, they see that as a bar mitzvah, street credibility, going to jail, that's a problem. I call it HIV, hood-infected virus, AIDS, addiction to incarceration and death syndrome. Because in order to be successful, I remember a very wealthy man my mother worked for. He said 3 things are very important. Number 1, watch wealthy people and do what they do. Talk like they talk, walk like they walk, dress like they dress. Follow that. Read what they read. Study what they study. Number 2, watch poor people and don't do what they do. Don't dress like they dress. Don't talk like, you understand what I'm saying, man? You understand what I mean? Don't go around with a toothpick in your mouth if you haven't had a meal in 3 days. All those dumb things. Don't do those things, okay?
Let me just jump in for 1 second. There's 2 things that I want to go to. I want to talk, you talked a little bit about your mother, so we got to go there. But now, today, in today's society, those very characteristics that you mentioned, that that's not just poor people. If you look at a lot of our high-end entertainers in the rap field, that's how they talk. That's how they dress.
Yes.
So it's not just the underground.
And you don't want to be like them.
Right. I understand that. But if that's what's being put in front of the young men, and they're saying, well, wait a minute, but he's wealthy. You know, if we look at, I don't want to call names, but so I won't say anything, but the one particular person I'm thinking, his name begins with a little and it ends with a Wayne. Yeah. When you look at him, he's got that same look.
When I was a kid, we had entertainers as heroes too. But I also saw Malcolm X as a hero. I saw Dr. King as a hero. I saw, Keep the Faith, baby.
Yeah.
Adam Clayton Powell as a hero. That we always have choices. We can look around. I saw Frederick Douglass as a hero. He wasn't alive. Booker T. Washington as a hero. I read about him. Okay? So the thing is, we always have choices to emulate what we want to gravitate toward. You can follow entertainment, or you can decide, wait a minute, there's another track, there's another world out here. You know, you have a Ben Carson. He's a hero. He's a doctor. Okay? So we have a lot of good examples. See, I saw myself as an entertainer, but fortunately, during the time that I was coming along, we had heroes that we could look at and that we can study, and we also understood the value of reading. Unfortunately, today, young people today, they see heroes as their entertainers. They see their entertainers as the ones to teach them their values, to give them their vision of themselves. I saw Malcolm X as a hero. I saw Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as a hero. I saw Adam Clayton Powell as a hero. But when you begin to look at these young people today who haven't been here but a hot minute, and they're listening to each other and say, man, he kicking some knowledge, he kicking some deep stuff, because they see these entertainers as icons and as a resource for knowledge and wisdom and information. That's a whole different kind of dynamic that's existing right now. And that's why we have this culture, this HIV, hood-infected virus, AIDS, addiction to incarceration and death syndrome, and it is acceptable. When I went to Rikers Island, we were there together. These young men were not embarrassed. They were not ashamed. This is the way it is. They're in their rightful place from their mindset. And so we have to break that cycle, because that happened on my watch.